Hi everyone, I'm Iman. In this video, we are going to build our booking app's homepage. We will build these cards with their image, name, location with a transparent background and a little transition effect. In the first row of this page, we will have 2 cards and for the rest, we will have 3 cards per row. Let's open up our terminal and in here, let's go to our booking folder, cd booking and run npm run dev. Let's go to our app. So we have created this in the previous videos. Now back in our Visual Studio Code, let's close our terminal. To create our home page in the pages folder, let's create a new file called home.jsx and create a home component const home arrow function return and let's create a parent div and inside we will have 2 different divs. The first one will contain our heading and paragraph and the second one will contain our hotel cards. So in here let's create a div and in h1 let's say latest destinations and after this h1 we will have a paragraph that says most recent destinations added by our hosts. Let's export this home component, export default home. Let's import this home component inside our app.jsx. Let's use this route on top. When we go to slash, it's showing nothing except the default layout. So inside layout, let's render home component. And if we go to our browser, our heading and paragraph are here. And also let's create a new route at the bottom of routes with a path star and the element navigate. We will import navigate from React Router DOM. If you haven't installed it in the terminal, just say npm I React Router DOM and it will install it for you. So inside navigate we will say to slash. So what it will do is, for example, in the URL if we say slash my booking or let's say slash unknown, it will redirect us to the home page. Now let's style this h1 and paragraph. So for the h1 let's say class name text to Excel, font bold to make our text bold and its color will be text black its color and the opacity will be 90 like this. And for the paragraph we will say text LG to make this text a bit bigger like this. Now let's start creating our hotel cards. So in the first row we will have first 2 hotels and from onwards we will have 3 cards per row. So we will use dummy data from data folder and test/hotel.json file. You can find this data in my GitHub. I will provide the link in the video description. So in the home page, let's import data as hotels from data/test-hotel.json file. Now before the return statement, we will say const top row hotels equal hotels.slice, and inside we will say after that const bottom row hotels equal hotels.slice 2. Let me explain it. From hotels that we imported from text/hotel.json file, we will slice first two hotels. Since these hotel images are stored in an array, its index will start from 0. So first image as 0, second image as 1, third image as 2, and so on. So we will slice first two hotels and store it in top row hotels variable, and from second index, means from third and onward hotel images, we will store them in bottom row hotels. Now let's use these variables inside our hotel cards. So after this div, in which we have h1 and paragraph, we will have another div and inside we will have two different divs, one for top row hotels and second for bottom row hotels. So inside first div, we will say in curly braces top row hotels dot map, and for each hotel we will show our home page card, which we will create in a while. So let's say here hotel and pass in our current hotel. Let's do the same for our bottom row hotels. So inside this div we will say row hotels dot map, and for each hotel we will say home page cards and pass in our hotel. Let's save it, and inside our components folder let's create a new file called homepagecards.jsx. In here let's create our component const homepagecards return. Let's create our homepage cards component and export it. Let's say in here div, let's fetch the hotel that we pass from home page. So in here hotel. Now inside this return we will have a link that we import from React Router DOM. Let's import it. Import inside curly braces link from React Router DOM. We will use this link later. Now inside this link we will have a div and inside an image element. Alt will be hotel image, and for the source we will say inside curly braces hotel dot image urls and the first one. So if we go in test/hotel.json, inside a single hotel object we have 6 image URLs in an array, and we will fetch the first image in the array from each object, Because these URLs are stored in an array, its index will start from 0. So that's why we say here, from each hotel's multiple image URLs, we will show the first image in our hotel card. Let's save it and refresh this page. We have misspelled the path. So inside our home file, in here we will say test like this, and if we save it, okay, it's showing nothing. Let's check in our console if we have any error. So in here it says home page cards is not defined. Maybe we forgot to import it inside our home. Let's import like this and save it. Now as you can see, our hotel images are here. Now let's style these hotel cards. Firstly, let's give some space between these two divs. So in this parent div, let's say class name space y5. In the vertical order, we will give space of 5. Let's save it like this. And for these cards, inside this div, let's say class name grade. We will use grade gap 4. So between each hotel card, we will have gap of 4. Let's save it, and on medium screens and above, we will have gap of 6. Let me save it. So what this means is, since this div is the parent of top row hotels and bottom row hotels, if we go between top row and bottom row, in here on smaller screens we will have gap of 4, but on medium screens and above we will have gap of 6. As you can see, we have gap of 6, but on the small screens we will have gap of 4. Now for our top row hotels, let's style it. We will say grade, and for medium screens and above we will have grade calls 2, and by default we will have one column, grade calls 1. Okay, so what this means is, by default we will have one column on top row hotels, but on medium screens and above we will have two columns like this. On medium screens and above we will have two columns, but on smaller screens and extra smaller screens we will have one column. Now let's give gap of 4 by default like this, but on medium screens and above we will have gap of 6 like this. Now it's 4 because we are on smaller screen, but when we go to medium screen, in here our gap is going to be 6, and our gap property applies to all the 4 sides. Now let's style our bottom row hotel. Class name grade. By default our grade columns are going to be 1, but on medium screens and above we will say grade calls 2. Let's save it. So let's skip these two, and this is our bottom row. Because the screen is small, we will have all the cards in one column, but when we go on medium screens and above, as you can see, our columns are going to be 2. Let's go on larger screens. We have so much space in here, so we will say on larger screens and above, for example extra large and 2XL, our columns are going to be 3. Let's save it. So on smaller screens our cards are showing in one column, On medium screens it's going to show in 2 columns, and on larger screens our image cards will be on 3 columns like this. Okay, now let's also give gap between them. So after this grid we will say gap of 5. Now let's go inside our homepage cards component and show each hotel's name and location. So after this div tag, let's create another div. Inside we will have span, in which we will show our hotel.name like this. So our hotel's name are here, and after this span we will create another span in which we will have our hotel.city colon and hotel.country like this. Let's save it. Okay, so now our data is here. Now let's style our cards. Now let's style our link, class name, relative. We will give relative on link so that each title and location is relative to its card. After that, cursor pointer. So when we hover on our card, our cursor will turn into pointer like this, and overflow hidden. Let's give rounded MD so that our image corners will turn into rounded shape like this. Now let's style our this div in which we have our image, class name. We will give height of 350 pixel like this. Our image's height are not equal. After this source inside our image element, we will say class name, width full and height full like this. Now our image's height and width are full and they are all equal, as you can see. And now what we'll say here is object dash cover like this. We give object cover so that our image will scale itself to fit the aspect ratio of the card containing it while completely covering the containing element. Now let's style this children div that contains our location, class name, flex. So our location and name will be on one line, and if we say here flex goal, our name should come to top and our location should go to bottom. Now let's say here absolute so that our content will be on top of the image. When we use the absolute property, we also need to give a position. For example, let's give here bottom 0, absolute like this. Now as you can see, our name and location are here like this. Now let's give a space on y-axis on top and bottom, py-2 like this, and on x-axis, meaning on left and right, px-4 like this, and background will be black. Now our properties are not visible, so what we will do is bg opacity, we will decrease the opacity of black color, bg opacity dash 50. As you can see, now it's visible, so it will take the full width available to it like this. And what we will do is rounded blg. If we say in here rounded TLG, then as you can see, the border of our background color will be rounded. Let's say here bottom, because we only need our background to be rounded on the bottom of our cards, and on the top it will be as it is. Okay, now let's style this hotel name, Class name text white so that it will be visible like this. Font bold so that the text will be bold like this, and tracking tighter. What tracking tighter will do is it will decrease the space between our letters. Let's save and see like this. Let's do tight. I think it's much better. Yes. And text LG to make our text a bit bigger. Now let's style our location, our hotel.city and country. Class name text white and font normal. We don't need it to be bold. Now let's add a simple transition effect. If we go to this div after our link, on hover, when we hover on this card, what we will do is scale 110 like this, and when we hover on it, as you can see, but it's not that smooth, so let's say here transition. Okay, now it's much smoother like this. Now let's check its responsiveness on small screens. It is looking nice. Let's see on medium screens. Okay, as you can see, on larger screens, in the first row we have 2 cards, and after that we have 3 cards. And on larger screens, it's the same, like this. So that's it for our cards. Now let's create our footer component. Let's close all these files, and inside components folder, let's create a new file called footer.jsx. Let's create a component called footer and a text footer. Let's export it. Export default footer. Since we need footer in all the pages of our application, what we will do is inside layout file, after this children div, we will say footer. So our nav bar, hero, search bar and footer will be on every single page of our application, and this div which contains our children, here will be our other layout. For example, for our home page, we will have this home page, and for sign in, we have this sign in and register, but our header, search bar, hero and footer. So our footer text is here. So for our footer, on the left side we have our text logo, and on the right side we have some links with a background gradient similar to our header. Let's go back to our Visual Studio Code, and inside footer file we will have a div, and inside this parent div we will have an other children div, in which we have 2 different divs. The first will contain our text logo and the second one will contain our links. So let's create 2 divs in here, the first div and the second one, like this. Now in the first div we will have a link which will go to slash, and its text will be e.booking. Let's import this link from React Router DOM. Import link from React Router DOM. Save it. Let's make our B capital like this. Okay, and in the second children div, we will have a span in which we have privacy policy, and in the second one, terms of services. Like this. Let's save it. Okay, our text is here. Now let's style them, and of course we need it to be completely responsive. So in the first div, class name bg gradient to right side, so it will go from left to right. If you say here L instead of R, then it will go from left to right, and if you give here B, it will go from top to bottom, and if you say here T, it will go from bottom to top. So in here we have set BG gradient to right, so it will go from left to right, and we will give here different colors that we need for our gradient. So from blue 950, so it will start from blue 950 and end to red 400. Like this, it will start from blue and end to red. And if you need a middle color, what we will say here is VIA blue 700. So it will start from blue 950 and the middle color will be blue 700 and it will end to red 400. That's how we give gradient, and after that let's give some padding on top and bottom, py-5 like this. Now for our second parent div, class name container, we have made this class. So if we go to tailwind.config.js, I have made this class container padding by default 1 RAM on medium screens and above, 1.5 RAM, and on XL screen we have 2 RAM of padding. So that's what I give here, and after this container flex, so all of our text will come in one line like this, and MX auto, so our margin on left and right side will be equal gap dash 3 like this. So this gap class will be applied to this link and these spans. So when we give here gap 3, we have gap between all of this text, between privacy policy and terms of So this gap3 class will be applied to our this div in which we have a link and this div between e-booking and this text. Let's say here 10 for example. As you can see, we have a gap between these twos because this gap will be applied to its children only. So between this and this div, let's say here 3, and after this gap, if we give here justify between, as you can see there is a gap between them. Justify between will push these properties to their corners like this, and after that we will say here items center. We don't need this div, let's remove it. And for this link, class name, by default our text will be 2XL, but on medium screens and above our text will be 3XL. Let's see. Now it's 2XL, but on medium screen and above, as you can see, our text is 3XL. Okay, see? Okay, so after this we will say font bold to make our text bold like this. Font serif. So this is the style for our text. Our text style changes, and for the text color, let's say white, and tracking tight. So it will give us the logo effect, and for this parent div for our spans, Let's say here flex, text center and items center. So it will push our items to the center, max SM. After this, what we will say here is font semi-bold and SM font bold. So what it means is, let's save it. So by default our font will be semi-bold, but on smaller screens and above our font will be bold. So on smaller screens and above our font will be bold, but on extra smaller screens our text will be semi-bold. Because on extra smaller screens we don't have enough space, so that's why we say here font semi-bold. And after this we will say text white like this, and same for the gap 3. So on extra smaller screens and screens smaller than that our gap will be 3, but on smaller screens and above our gap will be 7. Okay, now our gap is 3, but if we go on smaller screens and above, as you can see our gap is 7. And for these pens, class name, cursor pointer. So when our cursor will go on these pens, it will turn into pointer like this, and when we hover on it, it's going to be underlined like this. Let's do the same for terms of services. Class name, cursor pointer, and hover underlined like this. Let's check. Okay, it will direct us to the home page, which we were already are. So if you want to check your application's responsiveness on all the devices, what you can do is right click and inspect, and if you click on this icon, on this laptop and mobile icon, so in here if you click on responsiveness, you can check here your website's responsiveness. So it's all responsive, as you can see. And in here you have many devices. Let's check on BlackBerry Z30. Our website is looking perfect. Let's check on iPhone SE like this. And you can zoom in from here like this. Let's check on iPad Air, on iPad, on bigger screens. So all of our pages are completely responsive. And if you want to go back, just click on this again. Let's close this. So we are done with our cards and our footer. Is it the images or my styling that's looking so nice? Maybe it's the images. No, it's my styling definitely. So that's it for today's video. If you have any questions, you can ask in the comment section. If you like this video, click on the like button, comment, share and subscribe to UI Universe. Until next time, take care. Bye bye.